All right, thank you everybody for coming. Thank you, clerk. Today we're going to have the city clerk, corporation counsel, and the fire department to discuss. Katie, we'll just go in order. Are you ready to start? Any questions?
I have none at this moment. I'm not ready, I'm sorry.
All right, we'll go to the next.
I'm good.
I'll separate now.
Actually, I did have a question. Can I come back?
Yep.
With the hospital open, have you seen an increase in changes already, or birth
So,
certificates?
so far I just have a number of the births for, for the births for 2023, 175 births so far. And then, to current date, we probably have 151 from the time that the hospital has opened till now.
Has the workload been affecting you guys yet?
Yes.
Or, yeah.
Very much so. Yep.
Thank you. I'm all set, Jack.
Hey, Joe. How are you?
You guys have no questions?
I'm all set.
All right, Bob.
I'm good.
Joe. Frankie? Dennis?
Yeah, I'm good.
Well, you guys are going to get away with this scot-free.
Fine by me.
Joe? Any
What's that?
questions for the?
No, I'm pretty good. Where are we?
How's the campus?
Very nice. What page? Hang on one
I
second.
didn't see a button.
We need that.
29. What's the travel for, the 800?
That's just in there if we want to do any type of like NICOM training or anything.
Okay. That's what I had that in there for, okay.
No, sir.
Yeah, good. Thank you, Karen.
Mark?
Yeah.
Sam? Well, you're off the, oh, hang on, one more.
Almost. What's an example of the contracted services that you guys use?
The contracted services would, it would probably be, general code for E-codes.
Yeah.
So all that is in there, and that's the funds that we use for stuff like that, yeah.
Thank you, that's it. All set again.
Well, you are relieved. Thank you.
Relieved? Okay, all right, thank you.
Rocco, do you have any questions at all? Okay. Throw something in here, please.
Thank you.
Next in line? The big guy in the back over there. The big guy. Mr. Corporation Counsel himself.
What page are you on now? Mark, what page is that? What page? Oh, yeah.
Anywhere in particular? All right,
Hi.
good.
Do you got anything to say before we start?
Yeah, I wish I didn't put a lifesaver in my mouth before I came up here.
Go ahead, please.
Thought you guys were gonna call them first, it's fine. Hold on one second. Okay, here we go. I'm Bill Borrell, Corporation Counsel's Office. All right. We handle all the legal matters for the city of Utica. We have 6 part-timers, 3 full-timers, 1 administrative aide, Jay Giglio. We handle everything for the new people here. We handle everything from contracts, urban renewal agency, all the departments. We handle the defense, all the civil rights cases, except for ones we get conflicted out of, we have to get outside counsel for. We have approximately I'd say right now, right around 500 to 600 open cases. We have about 300 open codes cases that Mark Chico, our part-time person, handles. We do about 20 closings per year through the Urban Renewal Agency. We do about 40 ATV hearings a year. Each attorney in our office has a specific job they do, all right? ATVs, all-terrain vehicles.
Okay.
Yeah, so we take ATVs, that's one of the ways we're trying to stop the influx of ATVs on the streets, you know, no helmets, motorcycles, stuff like that. So we actually have ATV hearings. Mark's done about, I think he's done about 40, he said. I checked them today. So we handle all the courts, like I said. We're pretty much it as far as the contracts are concerned. But that's pretty much what we do. That's our job. We defend the city of Utica. We do all the transactional stuff. Yeah, so any questions?
Well, we'll start, once again, we'll go around
Yeah.
I had a pretty specific question as it pertains to the budget. It's normally you guys spend about,
Can't hear
I had a specific question with the budget, looking at the printing line. Normally, you guys are under like $1,000 a year. One year though, it was, I think in 2022, you hit about $10,000 in printing. What
Yeah.
was unique in that circumstance?
More than likely, hold on a second. Okay, so as far as, are you asking what, for this year, why is $10,000?
No, it was in 2022, so about, not this year, the year before, you spent $10,000 in printing,
Right.
which is fine. I'm just curious what the difference was, if it was like a certain settlement case or.
Well, no, I mean,
what the
this depends on,
discrepancy.
oh, I'm sorry, oh, I understand your
Because
question.
the year before that, I'm sorry, it was $300, and the year before that, it was about $300. That's the major.
Okay, so it's just a function, it's a function of how many cases we get in, like in the appellate division, that we have to actually appeal. Like today, Zach Oren, our first assistant, was in Rochester arguing an appeal, all right? It depends on that. Now, what we've done to cut costs over the years is, 2 years ago, I think it was, we actually went to the county to actually start doing all of our printing. We used to go to a private, called Avalon, all right, but now we actually go to use the county, which is much cheaper. They bind them for us, and they do all that other good stuff. So they do all of our printing now. So it's just a function of how many
Yeah,
things
it
come
makes,
in.
makes sense that appeals would be more
Yeah,
expensive with it.
yeah, they're
Thank
pretty
you.
expensive, yeah.
That was my only question.
Yep,
I'm good, thank you.
perfect.
Good evening.
Howdy.
So, just a few questions to start off. So, filing fees. How many of the cases are filed electronically on NICEF?
Most of them, especially in federal court too.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Does your office ever use no fee authorizations to avoid the filing fees associated with certain actions?
No fee authorizations?
Yeah, so certain governmental entities can file a no-fee authorization to avoid, like, what is it, like $215 to file a petition or $45 for motions, different things like that?
In the past, we've tried that and it hasn't been successful.
Booted it? Okay.
Yeah. But no, I'm sorry, I didn't understand what you meant by no fee, but yeah.
Yeah.
We can always check that again. We've actually had arguments with the county clerk's office back when we used to have to hand file things, like we didn't owe the fee. They wouldn't file unless we gave them the money.
Okay, yeah. For contracted services, is that what you mentioned in matters of conflicts
Yeah.
where you
Yeah.
hire an outside litigation firm?
Yeah, it's more money this year than last year. I think last year was $130, if I recall. I forgot what it was last year. But this year we have, yeah, it was $130, I think, yeah. So this year we have an issue. So we have what we call the city dump. It's called an incinerator road. It's, right now, the New York State DEC is actually, we're involved with them right now. We had to hire outside counsel. They want us to clean it up. So right now, we had to hire specialized attorneys that actually handle the cleanups on that stuff. So we put away another $50,000. We weren't sure how much that would cost us to defend that lawsuit. She assured us, her name is Doreen Simmons, she's out of Hancock, Estabrook. She indicated it's not nearly gonna be that much, but we didn't know how much. So, yeah.
You mentioned appeals. Has your office explored the virtual pilot program with the appellate division to appear virtually, or has that not been discussed?
I don't think it's been discussed, but we try to appear virtually as much as humanly possible. for
Okay,
everything.
fair.
Yeah. So, like I said, Zach today drove out there. They might want the oral argument in person. I don't know. If we can certainly save the mileage and save an attorney from going out to Rochester for the, takes time out, time back, we would certainly do that.
Yeah, just ask out of curiosity. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No further questions. Thanks.
Thank you.
Oh, I was going to ask you about the travel, but I think you answered that, so you're good.
No
I'm
problem.
good. Thank you.
Lee, I was gonna ask you about the contracted services, but, Councilman Vitar already said that, but, leases, is that the office equipment, or is that for vehicles?
Office equipment. Yeah, we don't have vehicles, yeah.
Okay,
If anything, we have a policy for payment, it's per mile. Let's, so for example, when Zach went out to Rochester today, it's his own car, we have to pay the IRS rate for that.
okay. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah, my question is on the salaries. It seems like some of the salaries went up over 8%,
Absolutely.
and why is that?
Should have gone up more.
Well, I understand that, but the cost of living is only what?
Can't help it. Right here, I'm not being rude.
Well, yeah, be explained to them.
Yeah, no, I can't, but this happens every year, and every year I try to tell the council. So this year, everyone in my office has been approached, including me, for other jobs in municipalities, paying considerably a lot more. The part-time attorney in the county of Madison makes $134,000, I think, a year, plus full benefits, all right? The county attorney, full-time in Oneida County, I know, is about $164,000, all the benefits. She works 35 hours a week. I'm not disparaging any of these people. I'm sure they work. They're worth it. But right now, I'm getting every one of our attorneys, all right, from me down the line, have been approached by different municipalities to come work for them for considerably more money, okay? So the problem we've had all through the years, and with Mayor Palmieri, he was very good about giving us raises, but it was never enough that we needed to keep the people we had. Okay, for example, Charlie Brown, we finally got him up, I think Charlie's at $55,000. Charlie should have been making $75,000 even part-time years ago. The cost for him, all right, for 40 years of municipal experience, plus what he knows, all right, is absolutely worth it, at least that amount. If we have to go to outside counsel, okay, for example, one outside counsel case we have right now, I think it's over 100 grand we've been billed by outside counsel, one case, all right? So I hear it all the time that, hey, this one's been approached, this one's been approached, all right, for considerably more money. We've got to be competitive with this. I pulled up some, I mean, if you want some numbers, I just got a call yesterday from an attorney out in Syracuse looking for, it's actually one of the BOCES positions out there. They start at between $90,000 to $120,000 a year. All right, that's starting pay. All right, we've got, the state of New York takes from us. All right, the county looks to our people as well. All right, they pay considerably more money than us. All right, so this is the reason why we've had to actually increase these amounts, because we're going to start losing attorneys. We lose attorneys, the work still needs to be done. We've got to hire outside counsel, so that's the issue.
Can I ask, I know where you're going in order. Go ahead. So you talk about people ask, they're always offered other jobs. So what is the turnover rate in the last few years?
0.
So you haven't lost anybody, but they're offered all these jobs and they don't take them because they like staying in Utica?
They do.
For less money?
They like staying in Utica because they like working for the city of Utica. We got a great group of people, Joe. All right?
Okay.
I mean, it's like, it's literally like a family. I mean, everyone's got each other's backs, all right? Everyone, if they need help with a case, someone is there for them. I mean, there's a lot to say for that, but this year in particular, I'm getting more and more calls, and more of our attorneys are telling me that I've been approached for this, I've been approached for this.
I get approached all the time.
Right. And let me ask you this question. Those are all part-time? We have 3 full-time?
3
lawyers?
full-time, 6 part-time,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. But these are the going rates for attorneys. That's the point. These are the going rates for attorneys. I mean, I pulled off some stuff really quick here. Associate court attorneys, $110,000 to start. Senior court attorney to start, $88,900. I mean, these are the prices. I mean, I've got people here with 30 years experience, 40 years experience, 25 years experience. That's the issue.
Well, it sounds to me the way you're talking family, and I'm not trying to give you a hard time, sounds to me they're pretty content on where they are, so they're not in this job for the money.
No, they're in it for the money too, Joe, let's be clear. All right? They're staying here because I've been asking them for years, to look at, stay on, bear with us, we're getting the salaries up. And this year, I was able to convince Mayor Galimi, all right? I said, look, we're gonna start losing people. My first assistant is probably gonna go anyways, all right? So I gotta replace him, all right? So it's just tough out there. It's very tough. Zach.
And they I know it's part-time, they all have their own practices on the side too, right? For the most part? They
Yep.
don't- Yeah,
I'm just
obviously
trying to
they're
think right
not living on what that is. Okay.
Right.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Well, I'm sort of sorry to hear. I think that we put some good money on the table for them this time.
Absolutely. And I appreciate,
So why waste it, why waste that money if he's not gonna stay?
I gotta get someone else in there to fill the first assistant position that does federal court work.
I mean, does he give you his resignation?
He's not giving his resignation, he just told me that people have come after him. I mean, I know he's interviewed.
We just hate to allocate that money.
Somebody's gotta go there.
He's gotta walk away from it. And
I hope he doesn't. That's why we got him up to 125.
Right.
Joe McBride's at 124. And thankfully, because if we didn't get him up, and if Mayor Galimi didn't allow us to do that, he was definitely walking. Part of the reason why they would stay is because after 10 years, they get their student loans forgiven. All right, Zach's done, Marima's done in June. All right, so that's the issue. So now that they're done, they're like, why are we staying when they're getting offered, $1.60, $1.50 somewhere else?
Right, I mean, I was considering hard on Zags, but now you got me thinking, well, maybe he's not gonna stay, why allocate all that money?
I gotta put someone else in there. And think about that, one federal court case has cost me over $100,000, not me, the city, in outside counsel.
No, I know, then.
He does probably 25, 30 federal court cases.
And I know his background, I know the great job he's done for the city. So we would hate to lose him.
Yeah.
We would hate to lose any of our counselors, so, it'd be great if you could talk them into staying.
Yeah, that's kind of the plan. It's kind of the plan.
Joe, did you have a question?
No,
I
ask
thought I
that.
saw you raised your
No, ask.
All right, thank you very much.
Anything else, anyone? All set? Thank you.
Really nice job. Nice job.
Council, so our videographer can hear us speaking to the mic, but I've gotten several complaints that we can't hear you. I know that I don't have to speak in the mic for people to hear me, so, but just as a heads up, so like I get a complaint that they couldn't hear you and a couple others, so just make sure you try and speak into the microphone. Thank you.
All right, fire department.
What's up?
Thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me. introduction and what you're looking for this year?
Sure. So, we looked at the budget last year, usages and everything. We went over in some things, obviously. We had a big contract settlement that was years out. So we had to catch up on 4 years of compounding raises. So we had to take that into consideration. Overtime usage was up. You know, a lot of it was driven by contractual obligation, obviously. We had a host full of injuries last year. And when we have a firefighter get injured, their minimum staffing clauses, we have to replace them. So that really drives a lot of the overtime. You know, and quite frankly, we were a busy agency. Once again, we were over 17,300 something calls last year. About 8,470 transports to the hospitals that was represented about a 350 to 375 more transports last year than we did the year before as well. Quite frankly, the ambulance service is extremely busy. A little over 11,300 ambulance calls last year. Out of those 11,300 calls, about 75% result in a transport.
It was 17,300 calls?
Yeah, total for the whole entire fire department, 11,300 calls right around that the ambulances responded to. And again, about 75% of every ambulance call that we go to results in a transport. We have noticed obviously an increase in our call volume, and I think that it coincides with, you know, we've seen some population growth, we see a lot going on in the city, and our call volumes went up accordingly. Yeah, so there we are with that. What do you guys got for me?
Well, we'll start, Councilman First Ward, look around.
One of the requests was for radios for up to $45,000, and I was curious if radios are those yearly expenses, or what are the conditions of ours? In the past, we've allocated about $10,000 for that line, and have come under most times, but was curious what the increase was specifically this year would get us.
Yeah, so one of the things that we're doing with the radio system, our stations all have a radio speaker system in it that's activated when there's a call. And we've been trying to update the systems in the stations a little bit at a time. And one of the reasons why we increased that radio line was to try to get 2 of the stations done in the new fiscal year. It's not only the radio system, but it's the speaker system and the station alerting system. So we're going through redoing the speakers, the bells that go off, and we're trying to get that done just a little bit at a time. So that was one of the things that we wanted to get done. Station 7, Park Ave station, we have a price of about $20,000 to complete that station. Station 3 in East Utica, we have a price of about $13,000 to complete that station. And it's just something that, as we evolve, we got to get the systems updated. It's just so you can hear what's going on, and that we have an updated alerting system for the firefighters.
Thank you. So yeah, that would be a one-time investment.
Yeah. So, you know, we're trying to not do everything under capital, and you know, and pay that out. If we're able to pay for it in short term, then we're trying to help do that as well. It's just needed repairs that we got to get done. It's been probably 15 years plus since we updated any of these systems. So.
Great, thank you. I'll leave that for now and defer to Councilman Burmaster.
Thank you very much. I just have one question. Last year you applied for the SAFER grant. Can you do that every year, or is there a limitation on how often you can do that?
So, from my understanding, the SAFER grant, you can do consecutive applications, but every time you apply for that, the council's agreeing to increase the overall complement as well. So, you know, when we went to 132, 2 years ago. We decided that that was a good number to be at that time, and we would have to agree to move up again if we were going to apply for another SAFER grant. So we'd have to go to 136 or 140 or something like that to make it make sense. Those positions are 100% fully funded for 3 years, and then you do have to keep them for 5 years total. That SAFER grant, and to just give you guys an example, since the SAFER grant, firefighters were hired in August, they graduated in early December. Since they've hit the line and they're starting to work, we have noticed a drastic decrease in the amount of overtime. And more importantly, we've noticed a good increase in the services that we're able to provide. So just as an example, today there was a structure fire on the corner of Linwood and Eagle Street. It was a well-involved building. Due to having extra staffing today, not only were we able to run 3 simultaneous ambulance calls during the time that that fire was in, we're also able to have a fully staffed engine that was at the Oneida Square Fire Station, at the Park Ave Station, which was only about a quarter mile from the fire scene. They were first to arrive. They arrived there in about 2 minutes or so, and they had 3 firefighters ready to go. Typically, or before the SAFER grant firefighters graduated the academy, or before we had the SAFER grant firefighters, if we had 2 ambulance calls at that time of that structure fire, that engine that was only a quarter mile from that fire would not have responded. And if that engine did not respond, the outcome that we had from this fire by extinguishing the fire early on would not have been the same. So that is a huge improvement, and that's something that we're thankful that we have the SAFER grant and that we had those additional firefighters. And that's just a small example of that impact that those SAFER firefighters are having.
Yeah, good.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Good evening, Chief. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, hey.
So I have some questions. You mentioned the EMT and ambulance service.
Sure.
So I noticed, and I'm referring to page 6 of the annual estimate.
Of the revenues? On the
Yeah,
revenue
the
side?
revenues.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I noticed we're looking at 3 to 3.3 in terms of projections. My question is, do you foresee a path forward to 4 million in revenue? And if you do, what do you think would need to happen to get you guys there? What do you foresee as a path forward to that?
So I'm always careful with, we can never predict. The interesting thing about our service and the interesting thing about public safety in general is that as much as we want it to follow like business practices, we're not really set up to be a business. We're set up to, public safety is an essential service, and it's hard to do projections, right? Because we can't schedule. We don't schedule when the emergencies happen.
And I'll ask it this way. You mentioned there's been an increase in call volume.
Yes. Yep.
Are there circumstances where the EMT services serve outside of the city of Utica that pick up additional calls and different things like that, looking at beyond the geographic area of the city?
Yeah, so we're all, fire department's part of the statewide and countywide mutual aid system, so we do respond to calls outside of the city. We also track, within the city, we track calls that we don't have an ambulance available for. So that could be if we have 3 ambulances on emergencies and we're doing a 4th or 5th one at the same time. So several times today, we were short ambulances. All 3 of our ambulances were out, and then we had additional calls that came in, so outside agencies came into the city. So we're missing, we don't have an ambulance available for about 1,100 calls a year.
Okay, and this is what I'm getting at. Okay,
yeah.
So I think you said it was 11,300 calls that
Yep.
you had received last year.
Yes.
Are those the amount of calls that you received and responded to, or just received?
Received and responded to.
Okay, do you have a number on calls actually received, so total received, so we can kind of figure out how many?
Yeah, so our total calls received was 17,300 something. And I could get you those exact numbers, it's slipping my mind right now. But, so we had 11,300 something that required an ambulance, but there are times that obviously, we're going to calls, there's so many calls simultaneously in the city. So, and because we only have 3 ambulances available on most days, anytime there's more than 3 ambulance calls, obviously, we're rolling a call, we're rolling a call to another agency. So whether that is Kunkel Ambulance, whether it's Central Oneida County, Edwards Ambulance, whether it's Prospect Ambulance coming from, 25 minutes away. There are times that we don't have enough resources to meet the requirements that are needed within the city itself.
Okay, now.
Can I just clarify for a second, because there was a little thing there. We responded as a department to 17,000 calls. You're asking what we received over and above the 17,000?
So I was asking, the chief had mentioned the department responded to 11,300 EMT calls.
Well, that would be just the ambulances, correct?
Yeah, that was the call volume for the ambulances alone.
Received and responded to?
Yes.
Okay, now, thank you.
Yeah.
So with the 3 ambulances you have, let's say there was an additional ambulance, how many additional calls would you be able to respond to? However you want to break it down, a day, a week, a year, I'll leave that up to you, but just to get an idea of how many calls each ambulance is able to respond to.
So like the chief said, there's about 1,100 calls that we rolled over that we weren't able to respond to. But again, we can't predict when these calls are going to come
Sure.
in. So you might have 3 out and miss 2 calls, or you might have 3 out and miss no calls at the time. So
Now, if there was another ambulance, is it
again,
just?
that's what I'm saying. So of those 1,100 calls, we would probably pick up a big chunk of those, maybe 800 or so. But there's probably times where we're missing multiple calls at the same time.
Sure, and is
So
that,
that 1,100
is
not
that
gonna be
specifically only because you're short an ambulance or short an ambulance and additional staff?
Well, they're both.
Yeah, it'd be both. So there could be times, so and it really comes down to staffing, the staffing model. So today there's 9 personnel at Oneida Square. So that keeps all 3 ambulances running, and it keeps the fire engine in service as a separate entity. All right, so they're within the same station, they're all doing the same duties, but we have the engine dedicated, and then we have the 3 ambulances dedicated. On days where, a lot of days, staffing is at 6 personnel. So if there's 2 ambulance calls at the same time, we lose that fire resource. Or if there's 3 ambulance calls, we lose that fire resource. So it's something that we, additional personnel is always a great thing, I keep on going back to today, with 9 personnel there, we're able to service a lot more.
So when you're maxed out on the ambulance side, the fire side, it's just,
Yeah.
what's the right way to put it? Not paused, but I mean, you just
Yeah,
don't have the
we-
staffing
Out
for
of
it once
service.
you.
Yeah, we lose
You don't
that.
have.
Yeah, we lose that valuable resource that's really geographically located in the center of the city. Because, if they're running ambulance calls at the time, they're not able to staff that engine.
Aside from city funding, has the option been looked into for additional ambulances through other methods or other funding options, whether it be through hospitals or different things like that? Has that been explored by the department at all to increase from 3 to 4 ambulances?
Not recently.
Okay. Okay.
To be clear too, we do own 5 ambulances currently.
6.
6.
Okay.
And, but that, in case one goes down for repair, we dedicate one to sporting events.
I
hockey,
should
things like that.
I should say an additional instead of 3 to 4. I'm just using that example, but I guess I'll say an additional. But okay, I just was wondering about that. I appreciate it. Thanks.
You all set?
Yes.
Talking about all these calls, they're kind of deceiving, because some calls could take 3 hours longer than others. You get held up at a hospital.
Sure.
Which
Yep.
you've got no control of.
Nope, we do
Or
not.
how serious the call is.
Yep.
So
Yeah,
you
so-
might be looking at 11,000 or how many calls, and some of them might be 5-hour calls, right?
Yeah, some
Correct?
of them can take a much longer time. Typically our calls are taken somewhere around 45 minutes, for that ambulance to not only respond to the scene, but to transport to the hospital. But there are times, like you said, there's things out of our control with
That's right.
hospital wait times and things of that nature. There's just times that, the service is really busy, and that the region, I just left the hospital, so we did have a firefighter injured at that fire a little while ago. He's doing okay, he's been treated, released, but during that time I was there was at least 5 ambulances at the hospital, They weren't waiting long, but, you know, it's still that, you know, we still, a lot of volume going on.
So it's kind of deceiving because the amount of time that certain calls are a lot more than other times.
Sure. There's definitely, today multiple times, yesterday, you know, it happens all the time, you know, that these ambulances, they'll clear one call, they'll go right to the next, to the next, to the next.
And you've got no control over that,
No.
obviously.
Nope.
That's all.
I don't have anything for you.
Okay.
Joe?
Thanks, Vince.
Yeah, so I have a couple things. Have we, I'm not sure what they call it, where I know there was talk before where we could have an ambulance taking people to doctor's appointments, to, what is that called?
Inter-facility transports, yeah.
Yes, and can you tell me what kind of money would that generate the city if we did something like that?
I think it's really up in the air right now. We haven't looked at those numbers in several years. I would say probably, I think 2017 or 2018 was when the numbers were last looked at. I am not familiar enough with interfacility transports to speak on any sort of authority with it. On the surface, it would seem that there's definitely a need for it. I can't speak with any certain authority on inter-facility transports.
Is that something you guys would be in favor of?
We'd have to really look at it, and see if it's something that we can do with our current staffing.
Okay, and then the last thing, can you explain the overtime hours? I know you had it before, last year's budget, you had it in two separate lines.
Yep.
And this year you combined it to one. You want to talk on that a little bit? Because it looks like it's confusing. It looks like the overtime line is a lot, but when you look at it, when you take it from the other side, it's really not.
So when the ambulances first started, in 2005, the first ambulance one was staffed strictly with overtime, not with daily personnel. So all the overtime was put into the EMT line. That was basically the ambulance overtime. That's not staffed like that anymore. So historically, they kept it in two different lines for all these years when they shouldn't have, because they weren't tracking it.
Okay.
It was basically, they would just transfer one call back a day, whatever that dollar amount was, and make a budget transfer.
Okay.
Years later, adjustment. So we just decided we don't staff like that anymore. We don't call back like that anymore. So
Okay,
let's
I
take
just
the
wanted to
money.
point that out because it does look different. Okay. That's all I had.
You know, I'm looking, I got 12 members sitting on here, 12 members for the fire department. No one's discussed any of those except for one. I mean, I didn't put these in, 4 council people did, but no one's discussed anything about these. You know, so I have nothing to say. I think it's a bunch of BS. All right, well, about these amendments, we're gonna discuss these amendments. I mean, we got.
I have more actually too, if you, whatever.
Oh, now we're gonna talk now, right? Okay. All right.
Well, I already did address the radio question and
There's
then,
11 more that's only
Yeah,
discussed.
a bunch more.
No,
all right, I think we're all,
I know,
I think
I probably should have said that, but you know, you guys can do it now, huh?
Okay, thank you. Chief, on the safer grants, I think it was 5?
Can't hear you, Jack.
On the safer grants, where we picked up the 5 officers?
We picked up 8.
8, excuse me.
Yep.
Now, was there an attrition end of it? Did we use that because we're gonna lose 8 on retirement, or is that just to beef it up for the duration of their time?
Yeah, that increased our staffing, or our overall complement to 132.
Okay, so there had nothing to do with attrition on the back end of that?
It did not, no.
Okay, I just was wondering, I couldn't remember that. And I know another issue that you had, I think we had talked earlier, is the holdover at the hospitals. How would we adjust, our ambulances were getting held there for hours at a time.
They were.
When they first were open.
MVHS gathered a lot of agencies together. They gathered EMS agencies together, and they made a lot of adjustments. We've noticed a decrease in the amount of time that we're waiting.
Mm-hmm.
MVHS has made a goal of theirs to keep the ambulances no longer than 30 minutes
Mhm.
waiting. at the ER. There are some days that they can't meet that goal, you know, during certain stretches of the time because they're just, there's just a lot of patients at that time. But as a matter of course, we are not losing ambulances for hours at a time lately. It does happen that we lose them for 45 minutes, maybe 60 minutes sometimes, but that incidence has decreased significantly. That MVHS is committed to meeting with all EMS agencies quarterly as well, and to keeping their wait times reasonably low.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Sure.
I'm all set.
You're all set?
I just wanted to ask on, it wasn't on any of the other ones that we had listed here, but when we did the Safer Grant, one of the pitches was that it would require less overtime overall. We would see from other fire department firefighters. Are we seeing a decrease in overtime as a result?
We are. We are. Yeah, they haven't been on the line long enough to get a lot of data, but we have seen a noticeable decrease in use of overtime. Yep.
Thank you. I'm all set.
Thank you, Jack.
We got 11 more amendments we got to discuss.
Wait,
got
can
a
I add
little-
on this then? While everybody is very excited about this, I'm glad. I do want to add that the entire firefighter lines is $15.8 million. The cuts that we're proposing, and again, we're just putting all our cards on the table. We're just looking at a lot of the stuff from this is based off like 3-year averages. Some of these numbers we never even hit. There's like certain lines we can go through all of that, but
That's what we're here for.
so, of all the cuts, it's 1% of your entire budget. And I know it looks like a lot, and I'm not just saying we even have to do any of these, but,
Well, that's why we should discuss it with them.
so if you have questions, by all means, you are welcome to ask those. Thank you.
What?
You're welcome to ask any questions you have.
These are your amendments, not mine.
I don't have questions about them.
Oh, so we're just gonna put them in and go blind, right? Is that what it is? That makes a lot of sense.
I got a question about the
Makes a lot of
overtime.
sense.
How could you even think how much overtime they're gonna have if you got a huge fire? They gotta, you want them to leave so they don't get overtime? I mean, I don't understand that. I mean, you got somebody tied up at the hospital with an ambulance, another fireman might have to stay later. You can't measure how much overtime they're gonna have. You don't know how bad the fires are gonna be, you don't know how
So
long
there's
they're gonna
only
be there.
one- okay.
I mean, this is a crazy thing to.
The only
bring up.
overtime, the only
How do
over,
you measure overtime, Katie? How'd you come up with that amendment to measure how much overtime they should have when there's fires all over the place? You don't know how long the fires are gonna be, how many there are gonna be. I just don't get that.
okay, I will,
You're not
the
gonna
one
get it?
fire, I'm going to answer your question. The only overtime we touched was from the fire prevention line. What?
Who's we? You got a mouse in your pocket?
I mean, we.
Okay, stop right now on that, all
Let's
right?
hear it. You're
All right,
saying
wait, stop,
There's
all
11
right?
people here.
Okay, stop.
Democrats.
Stop on that, all right? Or I'll just end the meeting right now, all right?
So
I'll
the
end
only
it right
one-
now.
We got a
Okay.
question, Jack. There's
All right.
11 people here.
Well, you got
She's
other
saying
people
we.
giving
Let her
wise-ass
say
remarks,
we are.
and then we don't need to hear that.
So the Democrats sponsored this. Anyway, the overtime line, the only one that was ever changed was from $20,000 to $15,000. It was a $5,000 cut because we never came close to hitting that. If the fire prevention line, if you guys have any thoughts, and it doesn't just end here today, if you look at these amendments with us and you're like, whoa, not cool, or maybe there was stuff that the mayor proposed that you'd like to pitch to us now that we don't know about.
Yeah, so I gotta tell you.
So
I
it was
have-
one-
I have not had, in my defense, I have not had much time at all to look at the amendments.
Mhm.
I barely had enough time to add them up. If you gotta call us back, then I would say you're gonna have to call us back at some point, but we have not had, I had a
So-
fire this afternoon, I had to go check on an injured firefighter, I had a couple other things. I did not expect that
Mhm.
to come this afternoon, so I was ready to talk about our budget, you know.
You probably should have dropped the fire, looked at the amendments.
Yeah, I just,
So do you
we
want
just-
these-
We just need some time to really look at some of this
And I
stuff.
would've For the record, I would have never made a wise comment if somebody said the Democrats did this. She said we, so that's
We.
why I said what I said.
Okay, if I can just finish on that. So Chief, just to reiterate, I know some people are concerned, this is just to put all our cards on the table and let us know, based off of the 3-year averages, and I still gave wiggle room for like those, some of them of just the increases of like what the trajectory was going. But if you see anything that's like a red flag, reach out to us and by all means, we'll take a look at that too. These are just to negotiate and talk. It's not because I randomly decide how many overtime hours there are. For one position based off of that, but when you're looking at the entire unit of the other ones, well, okay. No, we're going off of the numbers of the Excel. So,
All right.
but now we all have the proposals. So thank you.
Right, you're welcome. So I discuss those there, I mean.
No, the meeting's over, thank you.
Yeah.
Why is it over?
Because it's over.
You guys are
We
so-
went through, we
We gotta have a
saw it.
motion in a second to conclude the
Make a
meeting, that's
motion.
number one.
Can I have a motion to close this
You
meeting?
gotta have 5 people.
All right. Are you gonna discuss every one of these, or do we have a motion to close it?
That's what we got.
That's why we're
All
here.
right, it's up to you.
Yeah, guys, we're here, so if you wanna, but we need a few minutes.
look at it with the
All right.
We need.
Well,
a-
we were gonna give them a chance to look at it, if they have any questions.
Are
we
they
were
the
gonna get back
last
to them.
guy, are they the last speakers
Yes,
tonight?
they are. Do you wanna go over every one of them right now?
Chief, if you could take 5 minutes, I
We're,
can
we're,
show them
yeah, yeah.
something.
All right, well, then we'll
Listen,
do
I'm
it.
here, so, but,
But I'm not gonna lose the decorum in this audience, this crew. If you have a question, you raise your hand and we'll go around again. I'm not gonna play, I'm not gonna play this, all right? We'll be more than happy to answer the question.
Jack, we're not playing.
All
Let
right.
me ask you a question.
All right, we agreed to do it, all right? So.
Well, I still got a question on what we were talking
We're
about.
we'll give us a minute to get back together.
Sorry.
where do you wanna start?
So,
That's the.
What number we on?
under fire,
What is this?
Yeah,
this is a separate meeting, I'm just coming up here to show them so they can see it all in one thing. So these are the ones.
It's out of control, actually.
It was the other equipment, fire administration and equipment, down to.
Well, you got to 7 o'clock, you got an hour to kill. Might as well go through
This
it.
is just a myriad of them.
Going through it.
These are hers amendments or yours?
Do you guys all wanna talk at once together, because we can do that
These
too.
are yours?
Fire, let's start with
Joe, you know these
other
amendments?
equipment, so this is the one that we
So,
bring
so
up.
I'll say,
So other-
preliminarily, looking at these amendments and being able to discuss them, I'm in favor of discussing all these tonight and going through them, and then we could learn more.
Right, so I'm asking you, but did you know these before you put them in?
My name's on them, so we're gonna go through them.
So
And
you did know?
my name's on them. We're gonna
Did
go.
you talk to the chief? Did you talk to the mayor?
Well, here's the thing. Here's my
That
position.
was your whole argument of why you guys didn't wanna vote on it.
Exactly, and that's
So, I don't
and
understand.
that's why I think.
Actually, because the tax cap, you guys wanted to push it as fast as possible, so we said, let's put all the things that we could possibly push.
Stop. First of all, I wasn't here, so I don't say no you. That's
Oh,
number
you
one,
made
so
your
don't
point
point
for
to
that.
me.
Point
Okay,
of
so
order.
that's number one.
Councilwoman Testa, if I.
John doing this.
Don't ask you, you guys did it.
5,000's always been budgeted, we used it once with that, so that was other equipment, so if you can give me this other.
So now we're in a private meeting on top of a private
We were
meeting.
looking
Is that
at
what
like the
we're doing?
1% of each budget, and that's what
I'm
I'm
very confused.
So, ask questions or not, and then the membership, there was 1,500, but we've never hit over 550, so that's why we put in a 6. But we were just going off of the 3-year average.
Thank you.
Hey,
Yours, most of yours almost.
So where are they starting, at 42?
Anything over.
Jack, where are they starting, at 42?
But that was student stuff.
37.
We didn't touch, and the only.
37 to,
Position fees went from, it was a $500 change, and I think we needed that one. Most of the labor we do. Contract for EMT billing, that one would be most significant. So yeah, the ARPA radio, the radios ones I was curious on, and like, one of the things we proposed with that was the ARPA would cover the radios. So it wasn't necessarily, it looked like a cut, but the goal is to keep them. Contract master.
That's all you need in the record.
I thought, one thing, I noticed, we even put in an amendment, it was $25,000 typo on repairs.
yes.
So we put 200,000, it used to be 125,000, but
Correct.
that seemed good, we didn't want that, but I didn't know if there was something specific with that.
It's gonna go over and then we'll discuss.
You guys should speak louder when you talk since it's an open meeting, so people can hear you.
contracted EMT billing. 160,000 was requested, we put 150,000 because we've never gone over 142,000 in the past. Is that something that would be like make or break?
Okay, are we gonna?
Yes, that's
okay,
that's
okay.
just an example of.
Okay, all right, yep.
Do you guys want me to repeat the question for everybody?
Well, I think we gotta, however.
How do you want to do it?
Well, I'd like everybody here so we can talk.
What? But if you want to do the other ones.
This is
What page is that for?
Yeah. Yeah, it's always set.
Been there a while, I think.
Yeah, nobody picks it. Nobody picks it.
Chief, you went through them already, right?
I literally just.
Do you have any questions on any of them?
Oh, yeah, I got a lot of,
Okay.
like, I think we should at least go through these.
Sure,
like,
absolutely.
line by line, so we can
Okay.
talk about them.
If we want to start with the other equipment, I can say that one.
Oh, gosh.
Chief, I thought that these were discussed with you before they submitted them.
No, I haven't seen, this.
No.
That would've made a little
I,
bit of
I seen the
sense.
email this afternoon, and I just did not
Jacob, I
have
can
enough
have the
time.
floor.
Common sense ain't so common council.
So the very first one, obviously we're going through this. 16.5% tax increase is a lot on the people, and we're just going line by line. And I was looking through the budget, and we were going through to see what the 3-year average was. So when we look at other equipment, the only
Yep.
time we've come close to spending $5,000 was in 2020. Every other year since, we spent $0. So one of the things we did with that line was consider zeroing it out for this budget.
Did you check to see if any of the money was transferred out of that account for another one?
She's not talking.
There wasn't.
When she's talking, she has the thing right
Doesn't
now.
matter now.
She has it right now, okay?
Right, I'm asking
If you
her
got a
question.
question, you raise, if you have a question, you raise your hand.
I'm not raising my hand.
Then don't ask the
I'm not
question.
raising my hand. Not at school.
I don't, that's what I'm trying to find out.
That was under the fire administration one.
Yeah, we're trying to figure out. We spoke about on that.
Can I raise my hand, Jack? $5,000, they're questioning with the fire department we have.
When we
with
have-
Other equipment, $5,000, are you kidding me? You're worried
So I'm
about
sure we put that in for a
$5,000
reason again this year,
Um,
based on probably the new construction at Central, and equipment that we've lost, but I don't have those notes. in
Sure,
front of me.
and I'm not saying you guys put anything in frivolously, it's just when we, so it's not even $5,000 as much as when we have all of these things. I'm not saying let's pass 100% of these, we don't know. We need to compare and look and see what formula we can come up with, but when we look at the year over average of what it is we're not spending, and maybe that's, you know, where Palmieri had his surpluses all this time, but in the end, if it's hurting taxpayers, we need to, and I'm not saying, if a line's even.
$5,000 on other equipment with a budget the size of our fire department is totally ridiculous.
When you
For
have-
all 11 of us to sit here and plus $5,000.
So our budget lines altogether in these expenses come to about 1,800 lines. When you go through every line, if you add up 5,000 here and there, it really adds up. That's all we're just trying to do.
I didn't come back.
Hey, your household, your coffee shop, you might have $5,000 worth of equipment in your small coffee shop. I know in my business I have, it's just, I understand what you're saying. Good job.
So we got another one with safety gear under the same premise, correct?
Yep, safety gear was.
Okay, so now we're on,
These are all based off the 3-year average, and they all come either like about 5,000 under it, or we didn't even touch it ever.
So who's running the meeting now? Is it Katie or is it Jack? Who do I address? Yeah, no, my question is there was a press release made to the news media today that said that they got this under 2%. So if all these amendments don't pass and you don't plan on passing all these amendments, then what did you make an announcement for that you made it under 2%? Because you just said it yourself, you have no intention of passing all these after
No, we
everything's all
could.
said and
If I
done.
was
So then
doing-
why would you even make that announcement today? I mean, this is what I'm saying. This is the most political
You
thing on
want
the planet.
question? If I did this as if we were actually looking at our own budget here. If I was a mayor and we had to do something.
Right, but why would you
Can I answer the question?
No, because I actually wasn't finished, but
Okay.
I guess to go back to it, is you made an announcement today to the news media, to the council.
Because it does equal
Publicly,
15
that you had enough
15.5%
amendments to
of-
make it under the 2% tax cap, okay? On top of the fact, you never talked to the mayor, you never talked to the chiefs of the fire department.
It
You personally
doesn't
never
sound
talked
like
to, obviously, you never talked to the engineering department, you never talked to the codes department, you never talked to the,
This is where we're going to do
whatever.
this.
So, but why even bother making that amendment, or make that announcement that you were going under the 2% cap, if you're just saying that you're making these amendments to be passed for arbitrary purposes of wanting to just cut because those are 3-year reasonings? I mean, it makes zero sense.
We gotta cut somewhere. We gotta figure, and if it's not even just having to go to taxes, it could go to the
Right.
general fund balance, it could go to
Talk
who knows other
to
expenses.
the chiefs then, because you're
Right.
just saying you don't know this. So
I
if you
didn't say I don't know this.
now
I
you're
know
putting
what the
it
numbers
in.
say. If they have a reason
Do
to
you?
say like this
So
is
then why are
very
you sitting
specific.
there talking to the chief then, if you know what these numbers say? It's ridiculous.
I don't know why I try
I'm
to
done.
piece out this room. That's half of the problem. Sorry, chiefs. Sorry, this is.
Dennis, you're here.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm trying to listen. And I don't think it's any different than the mayor coming out publicly and ridiculously saying he wants to raise the taxes 16.5%.
But he did his job.
He did his job, and now we're doing our jobs by making amendments, which are gonna go to him, and if he wants to discuss them with him, fine.
110%.
But to sit here and try to ridicule people for doing what they're supposed to do when you haven't said anything, when the mayor came out with his budget, I haven't heard you guys say anything about the 16.5%. Are you gonna say something about that?
You haven't listened to the radio? Because I've been on to this morning, yesterday,
Right.
before that.
And what have you been saying? Because I don't listen to the radio.
Well,
Yeah, I try to keep on what we're doing here and what's going on with the city inside the council. I don't try to put it outside of the council like a lot of people are doing.
If I get a budget
We need to
amendment,
talk about
I'm gonna
this.
send it to you before I submit it to the entire
We need to
public.
sit down and talk
Okay?
professionally, respect each other, and talk about these things. And just like Katie's talked to the fire department, she's probably gonna talk to the police department. That's what we need to do. But we don't need to sit here and try to make fools out of each other, you know?
I just want to say one thing to that. You're also in violation because you called the committee meeting without submitting, you gave it, now we have amendments that we're discussing that weren't even submitted. So now on top of the fact, you're violating open meetings law because you're discussing pieces of
You
legislation.
wanted us to question
First
these.
of all,
Now,
somebody else brought it
I
up,
didn't
not
listen
me.
to the radio to hear that. You sent me an email, right?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, and I read it.
I sent it to you
and-
before I went publicly and talked
Yeah.
about it.
And I appreciated that,
No,
you
I
know.
know you do. I
Because I
know.
like everybody's opinion, but there's no need for us to be nasty to each other.
No, you're
Listen.
right, you're totally right. And that's, can I speak there? It's not necessary for 5 of yous or 4 of yous to get together and do this without all of us doing it. How come, it's this baloney, boom, boom, boom. It's all together. We gotta do this together, okay?
The object is that you guys are gonna submit your legislation.
What do you mean, you guys? It's
Yeah,
us. We're
yeah.
not you
Right,
guys.
that's why I
We're the
said,
11-person
that's
council.
why I said.
We're
So
not
we're all
us.
put,
We're not us or you.
we're putting them all
We
together.
gotta get away from that, Jack.
Can I ask
We've
a-
been doing it too
No,
long.
no, I don't do it.
6'4", 6'3". We're
Can
11
I ask a question to the
people.
chiefs?
Go ahead.
With the fire training, one of the food services, it looks lower, but I think, isn't your fire training actually growing? With, how are the classes going, and don't we just actually get the money, people pay for those courses, right?
Correct.
So
People,
those,
other than Utica employees pay.
so really that expense would be paid back by, the food services are paid. by
Right, so
the
there's
county.
Budget
there's a
meetings
revenue
and then make the
line
amendments.
Yes,
for fire training, so if you lower one, you should lower the other.
right, but you guys are hitting, how, are the classes growing, are they?
Yeah, again, unpredictable, we're scheduled to be max capacity in the spring, but just like every department, you know, they have problems with the hiring process, things like that, so they say they're sending 6, sometimes it's 5, sometimes they call and ask for another. It's,
What number we discussed?
we can't.
No idea.
Food service?
We max out at 30, and, you know,
Thank
try
you.
to hit that number every
These
time.
budget amendments.
One of the other ones with the fire prevention for software, that was another one that never hit
I
really
know what's
over,
going
but are
on,
you looking at new software this year?
We did purchase new software.
We did
Okay.
purchase new software. All right, so can we go back to the fire line safety gear?
Yep.
It was a $5,000 change. So effective April 1st, the turnout gear that we buy, it's gonna go up another 12%. So that's taking the coat, pants, boots, gloves, protective hood, helmet, so that total envelope's going up to about $4,900 per firefighter. So not only do we purchase that gear, when every firefighter gets hired, they get a complete set of gear, we're also on a 5-year replacement plan as well. So, and then per regulation, the gear gets changed out every 10 years. So there's a 10-year shelf life on all turnout gear. We are noticing that depending on the call volume and depending on how many fires guys are going to, we have to replace that gear sooner. So no matter what, we're looking at about a $5,000 cost per firefighter to replace that, replace their setup turnout gear. So,
We bought less gear last year
yes.
So
because
last
of
year.
finances. So
Yep.
a lot of guys who were on that 5-year plan to get new gear
Okay,
didn't get it.
5-year plan.
So
Yep.
we actually asked for 75,000, this, which
Correct.
still isn't enough.
Yep.
Okay.
But, so the mayor cut it down to 50, which we weren't very happy about, and, you know, so $5 is another guy that's not gonna get gear.
Yeah,
And,
and that's something that we really need to do what we can to stay on this plan, because, you know, it goes, whether we're buying vehicles, whether we're buying turnout gear, whether we're buying breathing apparatus, we have to stay. Once we start deviating from that, if we buy less one year, we're gonna have to make it up at some point. The way the industry's going right now, and I'm not telling anybody anything that they don't realize, we are seeing price increases quarterly for the most part when it comes to a lot of the safety gear. So whether that's 3 or 4% a quarter, or we're looking at the turnout gear that we buy now, used to be able to get off a state contract. They're not even getting to our state contracting prices anymore. So it's just, we're seeing these increases and we have to account for those increases somewhere.
Makes sense, go to the grocery store.
Go ahead.
Has any of the council members actually met with the mayor on the budget, sat down in his office, asked, you know, what's his reasoning behind the 16.5% increase? You know, he went through it. I think he has some expertise on it. You know, so my advice is to sit with the mayor. Also, in your district, and I know you guys are at large, have you guys at least let your district know what their house pretty much is assessed for? Like, my house is assessed for $73,000. So with a 16.5% increase, it might be $300-400 for a year, which is pretty much less than $20 a month. And I think the average assessment in the city of Utica is $55,000, which I know 16.5%, but you're not talking that much more money per month. You know, just if you look at gas, if you look at food, if you look at oil, everything is going up. So to think that taxes aren't going to increase, I just, you know, I know 16.5%, it sounds really bad, but when you get the assessment of what your house is, realistically, for most people, it's probably less than $1 a day.
Jack, if I can add, as we look at these proposals, in anything that it says it's cut from the mayor's proposal, in all instances, it's still higher than it was in the last budget. We're not really we're not decreasing or cutting anybody's services from what it was, but that's why it's good to have these conversations. And here, where, you know, it's a 5-year, 5 years are up for the safety gear and what that means. And but overall, like, if it looks like a cut, it's not to take away from what it used to be.
But as far as that goes, what you paid for something this year is quite higher than you paid for last year.
And with the safety gear.
So that's what they're saying about the gear.
Yep.
And
Yeah,
Rocco, Mr. President, getting back to your question, have I talked to the mayor? I did talk to the mayor. I was in after one of our meetings. He showed me some stuff. He showed me, I talked to this mayor more than I talked to the other mayor, and I took the other mayor for his word. And for 3 out of the 4 years, his word was good until the last year. As far as talking to the people, we had a North Utica neighborhood meeting the other day, and we didn't actually come out and tell everybody what their value of their house is, or their assessment, because I didn't know, but I gave the analogy just the way you did. I also gave an analogy about Social Security. I gave an analogy how everything has gone up since 2018, and we haven't gone up at all. And so, yes, to your question.
Thank you, Councilman.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, for the fire chief here on the budget. So Chief, you were mentioning safety gear. I want to make sure I heard this right. With the new gear, is it staggered, or is the entire complement getting new safety gear?
No,
I just want to make sure I heard that. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
I
no,
apologize.
we try to buy 20 sets of turnout gear a year. And then when we hire new personnel, we add them on top of that 20 sets. So we find that our rotation of, if we stick to 20 sets, then whoever we hire, we can keep everybody moving in that 5 to 6 year time frame to replace that.
How long has the department been getting 20 sets per year?
Gosh, since I've been the fire chief since 2018, and we actually we've actually been on that plan probably before that as well.
Yeah, I wanna say
Yeah, it's
2016 or so when I was in training.
Yeah, so it's.
About 2016 or so. But it makes sense, because but the problem now with the gears, with all the regulation changes and everything, it doesn't last like it used to.
Yeah, and to
It
the
degrades faster.
to the extent either of you know, you mentioned I think it was 4,900 per firefighter for the safety gear.
Yeah.
Can you speak to the cost in 21, 22, to the extent you know it? I know it's tough to know the exact numbers,
Yeah.
but I just wanted to
Yeah.
ask.
Yeah, we've gone from 3,800, I believe, and
When I did it in 2015, 2016, fire pants and fire coat were around $1,100-$1,200 a piece. They're double that now.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Mark,
How many retirements you project this year comes out? And the reason why.
You never know.
Well, that's what I'm saying, but you have a kind of a sense of an idea, because I know you're gonna, you're bringing in new firemen anyways.
Yep.
And, you've got the academy coming up, right?
Starts the first week or last
So
week
we
of
have
March.
4 guys in a,
Yep.
in a
Yeah.
small academy now, and then
Nobody's actually say I'm retiring.
we have 2 vacancies,
Yep.
and we project 3 to 4.
Possibly
3 to 4.
3 or 4 retirements at some point this year. Possibly,
So those are all senior guys.
Yeah, senior, all, at least 20 years of service.
So we're gonna save money because you're not gonna be paying the higher salaries of the senior guys, you're gonna go back down to. the
Entry level, yeah.
Work their way back up.
Sure. Yep, that cycle, with the cycle with the fire department's a little bit slower than the police department. We tend to see our personnel stay about 25 years, I would say since 2000, when I got hired in 2000, probably had about 40 so retirements right at 20 years, but the vast majority of personnel stay over that.
But the average is about 4 or 5 every year, you think?
Yeah, sometimes, yeah, give or take, yep.
That was it.
May I go?
go ahead, Sam.
So, a couple of things, and this is going back to the conversation earlier with Dennis, okay? So, previous years, okay, and you've been on the council for a couple of years now. We go through these budget meetings, and then we submit our budget amendments. Not every department has cuts to them, okay? We bring everybody back in, have those discussions. With that said, I get an email from probably 4 or 5 other people saying that the council's got a tax cap, the budget amendment's under 2%, right? Oh, that's nice, I haven't had a chance to look at anything. So that's where my frustration comes from, okay? Now I sit at a meeting, I've got 50-something pieces of legislation in
56.
front of me, okay? These pieces of legislation, now first, we called a special meeting for 7 o'clock tonight. And I will get into this, that I've contacted the Committee on Open Government, that the council's in violation of open meetings laws. Number one, 24 hours before, you are supposed to get your budget amendments, okay? So according to this ruling, our 7 o'clock meeting is in violation. So my frustration not only comes from the fact that I've got 56 budget amendments from me, the council will be in violation of open meetings law for not submitting these 24 hours before, for calling a special meeting, okay? But I'm in the middle of a discussion now with budget amendments with the chief when we shouldn't have even been discussing these, okay? So that's where I get frustrated. So now I've got to answer to people of how I never seen a budget amendment before, talk to the chief on budget amendments that he's seen 15 seconds ago, where he might not even be correct in all of his statements for the fact that it's quick. Like, I'm not, no disrespect, I know you know your budget, but I mean, I think that's unfair. I understand Mark's point of, hey, you have them here, talk about them, but this is discussion can't end here, because guess what, at the end of the day, I know that I have budget amendments that I'm submitting. This isn't my first budget. So, you've got to understand that. I'm not going to just arbitrarily put things in. There's some line items in here that I have discussions for too. But I'm going to give them the time to give their explanation. And I've already went through it, but I wasn't submitting budget amendments before I actually got through talking with you. And a couple of you answered my questions already in your discussions. but not necessarily through this. So I think that there's a fine line in wanting to make an announcement and wanting to send stuff and still understanding that there's other of us that have been left in the dark to these budget amendments to try and give a decent explanation. So yes, I apologize only to you because I respect your opinion and I understand that your name's not on this, although you might have had a discussion on it, but it's not. Okay? So with that said, that's all I have, Chief. And I know that if I have a question, I will send you any question I have, and I hope that the firefighter that was injured today is okay. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
If I can just remind everybody that this is. Just reminding people that this is just to be introduced into committee, and then we will talk about it. It's not to be voted on tonight.
It can't be.
Of course.
Jack.
But some people act like it is.
Last meeting you mentioned at the very end, I don't know if you meant me or Joe Butar, you said some new people here don't understand what it's about. Well, I got on this committee because it was always we are them. This shouldn't be a we or them. I got on this committee to be an us. And you, 3 times today, I counted already, you said we. Why is there a we? I mean, this has nothing to do with the fire department right now. We gotta stop with the we. That generation's gone. That's why the fire department had so many problems over the last 4 years, because there was a we that didn't like the fire department.
Well, you saw,
Okay.
you saw.
But it's not we, it's
You
us.
saw what I had, you saw what I had to go through and what the Democratic Party had to go through because we wanted a committee of the whole. People going on the radio weekly telling, that we were doing the wrong thing. We didn't start this we thing. Somebody gets on the radio about twice a week and gets on the radio and complains about the Democratic Party. Somebody's on Facebook every day complaining about the.
What are these budget
about
amendments?
the department.
We,
I'm
there are
talking.
not 9 of us.
I'm
So
talking.
don't sit there and say that it's not.
You can put in any you want. We didn't start this. We didn't get on the radio every day say how we're taking advantage of the party system. We didn't do this, Frank. We came in here.
Started long before I got here.
We came in here willing to work with everybody, and from the very start, we got it every time we sat at this table. Okay? That's exactly what we got it from. all
Jack.
right?
Councilman,
All
Jack,
right? And
Jack,
I'm not
that's
gonna
not-
say
can I make a
another word.
suggestion that the fire
Jack,
department issues?
that's,
You guys-
yeah, Jack, that's not true, by the way. Jack, by the way.
I don't wanna discuss
Oh,
it
it's
anymore.
okay. You
I
said
don't
your
wanna
word, I
discuss
want
it
to say my
anymore.
word.
Let's get
It's
back to
easy,
the fire
wait,
department.
1 second. It's
Let's
easy,
get back to the fire
it's easy for you to go on a rant when you got your 5
Because
people.
I hear a rant all the time, right next to me. Go, next.
Mr. Chairman, it's just a question for the chief.
Yeah.
Bringing it back to the EMT services, we talked a bit about ambulances.
Yep.
Based on the ambulances currently in the fleet, I'll say, what is the average cost of an ambulance that is used by the fire department?
$258,000. It's the most recent cost. That's for a brand new ambulance. I just got a price quote for one. If we were to order it, if we were to buy an ambulance today with cash, we will not see that ambulance for about 36 months.
For what? For how long?
3 years.
3 years. We can't get manufacturers to commit to anything sooner than that. So, at some point, we will be talking capital, and we're going to have to order some.
And I believe the department just went through this with a rig. Is that right?
Yeah,
Waiting on
so
it? Okay.
we ordered a fire truck with ARPA funding in January of 2022. We're scheduled to take delivery of that next month, and sometime in early April.
So the same is true of the ambulance in terms of delivery time?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it's just
What year is the newest ambulance in the fleet?
2023,
And the oldest?
2013.
And there's 6 of them total?
Yes.
So 2013 to 2023, are 5 of them 2013s and 1 of them 2023? How does that
We have
break
a
down?
2013, 2 2014s, a 2017, 2018, and then I believe the other 2, one was a re-chassis. So one of the good things about our ambulance is that we do have the opportunity to re-chassis them. So we use the existing box, we send it to the manufacturer, they refurbish the box, and they put they put that box on a new chassis. And so we do have reuse value in the ambulances that we do buy. That's also decreased costs when we're able to do a, they call it a remount.
Okay, and based on your experience, what's the average life of an ambulance used for the services that the department uses it for?
Should be about 7 years. And I can actually get you a copy of the vehicle replacement policy or vehicle replacement plan that has all the vehicles, fire department owned vehicles on there. And you can take a good look at that. It'll give you the age of the vehicle, mileage, hours, if that's applicable.
Okay, great. And I just ask these questions to kind of gauge where we are in terms of the ambulances that are, past their, for lack of a better term, shelf life, we'll
Sure.
say,
Yep.
versus the newer ones. I think you said the newest one was in 2023 to kind of
Yep.
gauge where we are with that, where we are with our 6, and maybe where we need to go into the future. So thank you.
Sure. Yep.
Are the ones you have that are older still very effective?
The 2013, we use that for our special events, so we use that to go stand by at the hockey games and things like that. We try not to put it in frontline service too much, just to save it. So. All right. Getting back to fire prevention line replacement overtime, requesting to drop it 5,000. We're in the process of reclassifying our overtime usage for fire preventions. Jim, you want to talk a little bit?
So we had older, are we gonna talk about all these?
Go ahead.
You still want to talk? Or
The old software we had didn't have capability of tracking different aspects of overtime, so it would have to be reclassified at the end of the year. So we're in the process of doing that now. That line will actually be over whatever was funded this year, 30,000, I think. So that would be fire investigation overtime for the fire prevention month, a lot of that in October and other times of the year, sparky details, things like that. So why don't we reclassify that, especially with the overtime line going from 950 to 650, that line will become more important. And to classify it correctly, we certainly suggest you leave it where it is.
Yeah, like what you said today, the fireman got hurt. You don't know how long he's gonna be out, so you don't know how much overtime that's gonna improve.
Right.
We don't.
Right, and that would come out of the other line, which now we're currently taking fire prevention out of that as well.
That's good.
Okay, so then we went to fire prevention computer software. I'm just doing them in how the order I got. So we went from 15,000 to 5,000. We did just buy new investigation software to try to keep up with the changes. Its name is called Blaze Stack, but it's something that's really streamlined our investigation process for our fire investigators. It's a subscription service. We had to do a one-time setup fee and the first year fee, and then it's a cloud-based service. So one thing, you used to be able to buy the software, the record management system, or what have you, and you would own it, and it'd live in a server here locally. But all the new software is all cloud-based, so it's all subscription service. So we have to pay for that. Either that's a monthly subscription or it's a yearly subscription, and we have to pay for additional users on that. All of our fire investigators have a user account. I would have to, again, dial into the contract a little bit and see exactly what that amount is, and then we could look at that a little more in depth. Fire training contracted services, that's it was $10,000 change. So in that contracted services and fire training, what we use that for is all of our required safety testing for the year. So we use that to do the fire hose testing. So most of the things that we use in the fire service are required to be annually tested. And that's to ensure their safety and make sure that they're not worn out, they're not in need of replacement. So fire hose gets pressure tested every year. We bring a company in to do that testing. They accomplish that testing in 3 or 4 days. They get all of the fire hose tested to the service pressure. Any hose that either burst or has a leak in it is taken out of service, replaced, and it's a third party, so we can say that it was officially tested and looked at, and it's safe to use. All the SCBA's, the breathing apparatus that we use, when you put it on your face and start breathing air, there has to be a certain amount of air that comes out of that regulator. Those are all tested. That's called flow testing. So those are all done every year. Our ground ladders and aerial ladders, those undergo stringent testing per NFPA guidelines. So they're all load tested. They're anything that needs repair, those repairs are done. We do lose ground ladders time to time. Sometimes we're at a fire scene and one falls over, something breaks. So we catch anything that needs to be replaced, repaired, and we take care of that. Then, what am I missing here? Ladder test, hose test, SCBA
RA and
test.
fitness training.
Fitness training, that comes out of the contracted services as well. So our fire academy, we have a fitness trainer that meets with our cadets every morning, and also does residential advisor, or is a RA for overnight stays for our recruits. Cascade system maintenance, propane for our training grounds, gym equipment maintenance. So that all comes out of that line. Our contracts total, somewhere around $100,000, and it'll probably still be a little bit short. Okay, so we talked about contracted services. What's next? We'll do fire EMT education and training. Dropping that from 75 to 43,000. So the education and training, one of the things that does is that continues our ongoing continuing medical education. It covers our paramedic recertification, our EMT recertification, as well as sending our newer firefighters to paramedic school. So this year, we're looking at somewhere between 6 and 8 personnel that are going to have to go to paramedic school. It's a contractual obligation as well.
8 in the last 12.
8, okay, yep. So 8 of the 12 people that we have recently hired over the last year and a half will be headed to paramedic school. So there's definitely an impact on that education and training line. I can get you the exact number.
It's 10,000
So
for paramedic.
possibly 10,000 a student for their registration and for the class. Next thing that I have up is contracted EMT billing.
Chief, if I may, I apologize. Just
No,
one
go ahead.
question on that. How long is the program for paramedic training?
It starts in August. Every year it starts August, and they will usually test out the following July. That meets sometimes 2 to 3 days a week. It's a college program through HCCC, and they also have a slew of hospital time, whether it's emergency room observation hours, operating room observation hours, ride time on the ambulances, respiratory therapy. So they do that registration covers all that clinical time as well as the class time and the practical.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
On an average, how many students do you usually have?
It really depends what our turnover rate is. It depends how many people we're hiring.
But it's not only we're training ours, you're training other departments, aren't you?
Yeah, but that wouldn't come out of our contract, that wouldn't come out of that training line. That would, we have them do ride time at our ambulances, but they ride with our, they call it preceptorship, so they ride with our more experienced paramedics. So we do have outside people come in and ride with us, but they just do that to get their clinical hours in.
When you have your training school, you have a lot of.
Oh, yeah. So.
And you get paid for that.
Yes, and there's a cost for the continuing medical education. So I just recertified my paramedic. So I have to go to a certain amount of classes. I got to take online training. We go to our classroom. We have the EMT coordinator whether we're doing CPR refreshers, whether we're doing advanced cardiac life support or pre-hospital trauma care support. So we got to go through all those classes every year, and that takes, obviously, that.
And we do it through our own training.
Yes, we do, we
If we
do.
didn't have that, we'd have to go outside training.
Absolutely, yeah, and that would, there'd definitely be a cost for
And
that.
we keep on bringing more people in, that we're training from other departments and get paid for.
That's something that we're looking at, increasing that and becoming what they call it is a program agency, so we can push out.
It'd be a good money maker.
Possibly. I can't speak with authority on it because I'm not super familiar with the numbers associated with the cost on that, on what we would make in the classes.
Yeah.
Chief, with the paramedic training, you mentioned the programs from July to August. That's overlapping fiscal years for the city. Do you take that into consideration when budgeting for
Yeah, so
those classes? I just wondering where we have
try to
overlap.
limit,
Yeah.
so say if we had a big class, we don't want to send like 10 people to class all at once, because what ends up happening is that we end up having to do a lot of replacement time. So sometimes we'll stagger them, so the class will start in August and maybe we'll send the next round of guys the following year, so we can stagger that a little bit. But yeah, it does get difficult managing it.
Yeah, I just ask for obviously
Yeah.
our fiscal year and budgeting appropriately when half the programs in one fiscal year or the other
Yes.
it
Yep.
continues along to the next fiscal year, and just straightening that out in my
Try to
head. Just
balance
figure
it out a
Yeah,
little
yeah.
bit, yep.
Okay, that's what I asked. Thank you.
Okay. Contracted EMT billing, we dropped at 10,000. We just awarded this contract back in November. It went out to RFP. MedX is our billing company. They do all our billing. They won the RFP again, so they have a 3-year contract with an extension, with a option to extend it an additional 2 years for a total of 5 years. We just awarded that RFP. I wish I had the number on the top of my head of what the total is year, but I'm sorry, I don't. I can get that for you though.
And on that one, it was budgeted for 145,000 last budget.
Yeah.
Proposed for 160,000, but like
Yeah.
you said, we've never gone over the 145, so that's why we did the 150. But
Yeah,
all by all
I
means, willing
definitely
to
know there's a
look
new
into your
rate
numbers.
associated with it now, so I would just have to look it up so I could be 100%
Thank you.
accurate. Contracted under fire training, contracted food service, dropped that from 80 to 50. Jim, you wanna handle it?
Yeah, so, again, it's based on the number of students that we have attending our academy. It's $1,800 per student paid to MVCC, so we collect that money, but then it's paid out. We're scheduled to have 29 or 30 in this class, 2 Utica members, so 28 times 1,800 right there, so if you know,
How long are the classes?
14 weeks. So it's a little 100 and change a week. They get all their meals through MVCC. They go there, eat all you can eat.
An assistant chief, did you say 20 or 30 students? I'm sorry, I missed that.
We're scheduled to have 30.
30.
I think we're just over
And
30 right
you
now,
said
but like I said, a
1,800
couple
each
fall off
across them?
generally.
Yeah, for the contract.
So one class is about over $50,000.
Yes. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
That is what it is, yeah.
Okay, custodial supplies. What we did with the custodial supplies this year, we just moved lines, so we took the custodial supplies from the fire line, the 15,000 that we normally spend for the custodial supplies, and we moved that to the fire training line. We're just gonna have the training department administer the custodial supplies, so we just moved it to their line. Those supplies are for the entire fire department. Those are for all 7 facilities that we run.
And the fire gas.
And the fire, yeah, or all 6 fire stations plus the fire academy. So, it's a big, taking 10,000 out of that is a big deal.
It's
to
just
us.
not, I mean,
Yeah,
that's
just-
toilet paper, paper towel.
Yeah,
Just
so,
imagine, I mean, if you had a 30-person
clean-
family, you'd spend that in toilet paper.
Yeah,
No, it helps to see which ones you guys consolidated.
Yeah.
Once I learned that about the overtime, it's so
Yeah.
much like less than it was before.
yep. So, that's the issue with the custodial supplies. We talked about the radios, I explained that. Other equipment for fire mechanic, so that's usually like if the mechanic needs some specialty tools and equipment, it's something that we could look at. We could dive, Jim and I, will talk to the mechanic, Chris Evans, and we'll talk a little bit more with him so I can get a better answer for you guys.
So the
Okay?
mechanic's leaving, and if anybody knows anything about mechanics, they own a lot of their own tools, they buy their own tools. So when we switched that over and we purchased things, but some of the equipment that he came with, he's gonna leave with, obviously.
Are we doing all of our own maintenance on these trucks?
He does as much in-house maintenance as he can. Certain repairs certainly do get farmed out as well. So that's in that budget. I mean, I think if you look at his budget now, he's over budget in just about everything right now.
Yeah, again, that's been something that, you know, between fuel and oil cost increases and then just the cost of parts. You know, we've seen some huge increases in the replacement parts, not only increases, but lead times, waiting for parts so we can get things back in service. Make no mistake about it, losing, Chris Dobbins has been our mechanic for many years. Losing him is going to be a big hole to fill in the fire department.
Has anybody worked with them?
We're trying to get somebody.
Yeah, we're trying to actively recruit.
It goes back to something that Bill Borrell said, you know,
Yeah,
the salary has to be attractive to, you know, diesel mechanics make a lot of money.
Yep, and they really got to become a jack of all trades as well, because they got to be willing to learn fire engines and fire pumps and ladder systems, and it's not just being a diesel mechanic, it's being a gas motor mechanic, it's being a small engine repair guy, it's changing tires, brake jobs. You know, our vehicles take a lot of wear and tear. There's a lot of miles daily, and losing him is going to be those are going to be some big shoes to fill, whoever we get to replace him.
So how many mechanics do you guys have? Just
We only have one.
He's the only guy.
Yeah, you know, and having one mechanic really, you know, poor guy, he's, if a fire truck breaks at a fire overnight, he's there. When it's 10 below zero and one of the rigs freezes, he comes. You know, we blow a tire over a weekend, he's there. It's, he is, him retiring is gonna leave a big hole in our department, and he, what's that? No, I'm gonna tell him that. I've told him that multiple times. I keep on asking him to stay a little bit longer. But he's looking forward to a well-deserved and earned retirement, and he's just a great guy. But he's definitely gonna lose. We're definitely gonna lose a valuable asset to our department. And just moving on to that, the last sheet I have here is under the fire EMT line under other equipment, and they went from 75 to 60, and a lot of times we use that to buy extra equipment that, whether it's something, whether we use a drill to put an IV into somebody. It's called an intraosseous needle. We use a lot of these needles, and what that does is when we can't get peripheral IV access, we put the drill out and we drill into the bone. And we're able to administer fluids and medications through that. It's an invaluable tool. So we bought a bunch of these. They're called IO needles and IO guns. We bought a bunch probably about 8 years ago. We're looking at replacing them. They cost about $1,200, $1,500 a piece. Every apparatus has to have one because they're all advanced life support. So, you know, when we look at things like that, that's what we're trying to purchase. The needles aren't cheap as well, so that's just the ongoing cost. And obviously, if we use one, we bill out for it. But just that initial cost to some of that stuff is where a lot of that stuff would come out of under the other equipment lines. Whew, that's the last one that I have for right now.
Thanks, Jim.
Is there anything else
I
that?
appreciate it.
Yep. Okay. All right.
All right, that brings us to the end of this meeting. Have a motion to,
Motion, a second? Second.
Will come to order. City Clerk will call the roll.
Aiello, Burmaster, Bitar, Carcone, Irvin, Beatrice, Williamson, Classimo, Testa, Lemetico, Geruzzi, all present.
Thank you. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance with a moment of silence for the deceased member of the Common Council. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Judge Guillermo?
There is nothing more technical than special meetings with regard to legal review. I've been through, in 26 years, quite a few of them, and they're always technical. It is not technical. It was my understanding when I was here a good part of the day yesterday that the amendments that would be before you tonight would be served upon you sometime yesterday, and then you would have had them for 24 hours or more. And the suggestion in the law is that where practicable, you do that 24 hours before the meeting so that each one has each of the persons who are involved get an opportunity to review these matters before they come to the meeting. Well, I received just about 15 minutes ago, I didn't count them, about 57 amendments, which none of the, well, I won't say this either. There are a number of councilmen who have not received them, did not receive them within 24 hours of the special meeting, and therefore have a right to review them before they have a meeting and they're going to discuss them or put them in committee or introduce them. I suggested to the leadership of the council that you should adjourn this meeting with the understanding, number one, every single councilman here has a copy on the record of the amendments, do they not?
Yes.
Is that correct? And that you don't anticipate any further amendments. But if you do, either one of you, you must give them to the parties at least 24 hours before the next special meeting, which I understand will be held next Tuesday. And that special meeting, the meeting itself, will convene at 7 o'clock. Am I correct? Everybody agreed to that? Okay. And at that meeting, all of the parties will have and reviewed the amendments. And at that meeting, or prior thereto, two things will happen. The mayor of the city of Utica, because of this delay, he will see the amendments the same time you are. He'll see them tomorrow. That will give the parties, if they wish to, or the mayor, to convene the parties before that special meeting, and maybe the mayor and the councilman who represent a majority can reach some agreement on a budget figure that might be adopted at the meeting of March 6th, because these matters will be in committee on March 5th. And it gives them time to talk. And if the mayor, they will probably be introduced on the special meeting on March 5th. So they'll probably be in committee. And this budget doesn't have to be adopted till March 20th. That gives you 14 days to discuss this matter with the mayor. And it may be possible that things that he wants to happen, things you want to have happen, can happen in a mutual agreement between all of the parties. And I think that's only fair to the mayor. It's fair to each one of you councilmen and council persons. I
I'm not, have any reservation to say that the council person tested, brought this to my attention, and I think that I always feel, there's a saying, Mr. Bardee, we never buy a lawsuit. So I don't want to ever advise you anything that's convenient, but I want to keep you legal. So therefore, it's my suggestion that you adjourn, somebody make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
I'll make a motion to adjourn it.
Second.
And
Motion to adjourn.
call the roll, and each person here acknowledge that there's a special meeting on March 5th at 7 o'clock.
Mr. President, may I have
What?
may I have the floor for 1 second, because I didn't give a motion.
7:30?
To convene. You made a motion in a second.
It's gonna be
Guys,
7,
hang on.
it's gonna be
Let the judge
7:30
speak.
because there's some budget thing before that. Is that correct?
Yeah, but that's 5 o'clock, something should be good.
Huh?
Well, I think we want.
Yeah, so do you want it at 7,
We're
do you
gonna
all
do a
agree to
pre-meeting at
7:30?
And then, the special meeting at 7:30.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I'm interested, do you acknowledge that there'll be a special meeting on the 5th of March at
Yes.
7:30? Call the roll.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Councilman
So
Tessa? Councilwoman Tessa?
for clarification, so for the 24, for the special meeting that's going to be held, you have to have the budget amendments in 24 hours before, okay? That's why this council would have been in violation of open meetings law, because it wasn't in for 24 hours before. With that said, the common council still has the authority to submit budget amendments at their regular special meeting. They have until the 20th. So I just wanted to clarify that there's still plenty
Budget
of time.
amendments can be put in at any time, as long as the meeting they're doing it is properly called and properly noticed. The notice should state clearly, since I've directed the clerk to send you a written notice,
Thank you.
so that there is a written record that the meeting was called, and the purpose of the meeting is for the introduction and review by the common council of budget amendments. That's all that can be done that night, budget amendments. We clear about that?
Yes.
And you acknowledge that, every member? Or everybody who doesn't acknowledge receiving the budget amendments and the meeting? If not?
Thank you, Judge.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Who made the motion?
We are adjourned. Yep, we got it.
Okay, thank you.